The universe had never seen a force like the Galactic Empire. Their massive fleets had crushed planets, silenced rebellions, and wiped out entire species. They were an unstoppable force that believed no one could stand in their way. And now they had set their sights on Earth. In the heart of the Empire, the Supreme Commander sat in his dark, vast war room, surrounded by his most trusted officers. His cold eyes scanned the holographic display in front of him, where Earth's planet hovered like a tiny, insignificant speck in the galaxy. The time had come for humanity to either bow down or face annihilation. The commander had already made up his mind. "Send the message," he ordered, his voice as cold as the void of space. "It's time to end this." Across the galaxy, the message was broadcast on every frequency. It didn't matter whether it was intercepted by Earth's defenses or not. The Galactic Empire's message was clear and final. "This is the Galactic Empire. You have no place in this galaxy. Surrender or face the consequences. Earth's fate is sealed. Your time is over." For a moment, silence fell over the room. The Empire's message was simple: surrender or be destroyed. The commander waited, his expression hard and unfeeling. He knew humanity wouldn't stand a chance against the Empire's vast military power. The humans had always been weak, their technology primitive compared to the galactic superpowers that had come before. The commander couldn't help but smirk at the thought of those puny humans trying to resist. Back on Earth, the message hit like a thunderclap. In the United Nations headquarters, world leaders gathered to discuss the fate of their planet. News outlets around the world broadcasted the message, spreading fear like wildfire. Citizens in every country froze, their eyes glued to their screens. The Galactic Empire's ultimatum had arrived. A cold wave of terror washed over the Earth. The people didn't know what to do. Some governments began making frantic calls to other nations. Diplomats scrambled to negotiate, offering Earth's resources, its people, anything they could to spare their planet from destruction. The situation was desperate. But not all were ready to give up. Inside a small, secret military command center, a group of Earth's top strategists and military leaders sat at a table, their faces grim but determined. They knew the Empire's power was enormous, but they also knew that humanity had something the Empire couldn't comprehend. General Roberts, a stern man in his mid-50s, slammed his fist down on the table. "We can't give up. If we do, humanity is finished. We will resist, no matter the cost. We must show them what we're made of." His words were met with agreement from the others in the room. For the first time since the Empire's threat had been made public, there was a sense of unity among Earth's leaders. They may not have the firepower the Empire had, but they had something far stronger: willpower, and the will to survive. "Humanity has always found a way to survive," said Admiral Lee, her voice steady but full of determination. "We've been underestimating the Empire for too long. They think we're weak. They think we can't fight back." Another officer, Commander Miller, looked up from the screen displaying the Empire's fleet. "What they don't know is that we've been preparing for something like this for decades. We've built up our defenses, developed new technologies. The time has come to show them what humanity can do when pushed to the edge." Roberts nodded, his face set in a hard line. "Exactly. Let's make sure the Empire understands that Earth is not to be underestimated. We're not surrendering. We're going to fight back with everything we have." The meeting continued for hours as plans were set in motion to prepare humanity's defenses. Every nation, every resource, and every scientist would be mobilized. The Galactic Empire would soon find out that Earth would not be an easy target. As the meeting ended, General Roberts stood, his eyes focused on the screen. He had seen the size of the Empire's fleet, the number of warships that filled the galaxy's vast emptiness. But one thing the Empire didn't realize was the power of unity. Humans may have been outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched in almost every way, but their strength lay in their resilience, and the Empire would soon learn the hard way that they had made a grave mistake. Back on Earth, the people began to understand what their leaders had decided. The world was divided, but one thing was clear. Humanity would not surrender. They would fight. They had to. The countdown had begun. Earth's leaders were preparing, knowing the battle ahead would be unlike anything the universe had ever witnessed. And in the cold void of space, the Galactic Empire waited, unaware of the storm they had just awakened. The moment the Galactic Empire's ultimatum had been broadcast across Earth, a silent fury began to stir. Across the world, military leaders and civilians alike were left in shock, but this shock soon turned to something else: defiance. Humans had never been the sort to bow to threats, especially not those from outsiders who underestimated their spirit. It didn't take long for whispers of resistance to spread into a loud, united call. On every continent, from the depths of underground bunkers to the highest points of government buildings, leaders met with urgency. The message from the Empire had ignited a fire deep within the hearts of Earth's population. What the Empire didn't know was that Earth had a secret, a deep, hidden network of advanced weapons and technologies developed over the years in response to the growing threat from the stars. This wasn't the Earth of decades ago, when humanity was helpless against alien forces. This was a new Earth, one that had learned from past mistakes and had adapted quickly. The first test came sooner than anyone expected. Only hours after the Galactic Empire's ultimatum, a fleet of colossal warships, each one far larger than anything humanity had ever seen, arrived in Earth's orbit. Their ships blocked out the stars, a terrifying, oppressive presence. The Empire's ships, gleaming with alien technology and weaponry, were meant to show humanity the price of defiance. The Empire's commanders believed that Earth would immediately kneel, as so many civilizations had before. The calculations were simple. Humanity would fall to their knees before the overwhelming might of the Empire. But they underestimated humanity's determination. Inside Earth's military command center, the first orders had already been given. General Roberts was the first to act, understanding that they had to hit back quickly before the Empire fully deployed its forces. "We've got one shot," he told his team. "We cannot let them get comfortable. If we let them settle into Earth's orbit, they'll begin their invasion, and we'll be overwhelmed before we can even react." Admiral Lee stood by his side, her eyes scanning the rapidly updating tactical displays. "They think they have us cornered. Let's prove them wrong." On Earth's surface, cities that had once been serene with daily life were suddenly filled with the buzz of activity. Factories that once churned out consumer goods were now converted into production facilities for weapons of war. The global community set aside their differences, forming an unprecedented coalition. Weapons were being manufactured at a rate humanity had never seen before, all focused on one thing: taking down the Empire. The Galactic Empire, meanwhile, maintained its calm, believing that they held the upper hand. Their fleets hung in the sky, poised to descend whenever they chose. They laughed at the feeble efforts of humanity. "They can resist all they want," one of the Empire's generals said, watching the feeds of Earth's frantic mobilization. "It won't make a difference. Their fate is already sealed." But as hours passed, that confidence began to wane. Humanity had always been underestimated, and they had a history of defying the odds when they were pushed too far. Even the Empire couldn't foresee the secret weapon Earth had up its sleeve. General Roberts, in his underground command center, watched as their counteroffensive started to unfold. The first wave of Earth's new fighter ships, fast and agile, launched from Earth's surface, cutting through space like meteors. The ships were designed to be nimble, able to dodge incoming fire from the Empire's massive warships, while still delivering powerful blows of their own. The first human-made weapon to clash with the Empire's ships was a series of laser beams fired from Earth's newly constructed orbital defense platforms. These platforms had been kept hidden for years, slowly integrated into Earth's infrastructure under the guise of space research. Now, they were ready. The laser beams shot across the sky, striking the nearest Imperial vessel with incredible precision. The Empire's flagship, the Dominator, the pride of the fleet, took a direct hit to its shields, sending sparks flying across its surface. For the first time since the Empire had arrived, the feeling of unease spread through their ranks. They hadn't expected this level of resistance. Humanity was fighting back. Admiral Lee watched the first successful strike on the Dominator, her eyes cold and calculating. We've just made our mark, but we need to keep the pressure on them. As more of Earth's hidden arsenal was unveiled, the Empire's confidence began to crumble. They had underestimated humanity's capability to fight back. Each wave of strikes from Earth's forces sent shockwaves through the Empire's command. But the battle was far from over. The Empire would retaliate. Earth was not out of danger yet. The first clash had shown that humanity wasn't powerless, but the Galactic Empire had a much larger fleet and far superior firepower. The stakes had never been higher. The future of Earth hung in the balance. In the war room, Roberts turned to his team, the air thick with tension. This is just the beginning. The Empire is going to retaliate, and when they do, we need to be ready. Let's show them what humanity can do when we stand united. The stage had been set. Humanity had sent a message to the galaxy. They would not surrender. They would fight back with everything they had. But what the Empire didn't know was that this was only the beginning of a battle that would echo throughout the universe. And soon, they would learn just how deadly a united Earth could be. The night sky was ablaze with flashes of light as the battle for Earth began in full force. From the surface, to the orbital platforms, to the deep reaches of space, humanity fought with a desperation born of years of preparation and years of hope. Each blow they landed against the Galactic Empire was a testament to the strength of their spirit. Yet every strike from the Empire brought the threat of complete annihilation closer. In the vast reaches of space, the two opposing forces collided with a ferocity unlike anything Earth had ever seen. The first wave of Earth's fighter ships darted in and out of the Empire's defenses, striking their ships with a newfound precision. The fleet of Earth-made ships, although smaller, moved with a singular lethal purpose. They were faster, nimbler, and their technology, though not as advanced as the Empire's, had been built to be unpredictable. These ships had been designed not just to fight, but to survive against overwhelming odds. Admiral Lee stood on the command bridge of Earth's flagship, the Resolve, watching the chaos unfold on her screens. The Empire's forces were vast and well-equipped, but Earth's fighters had an edge. They weren't fighting for power, wealth, or conquest. They were fighting for survival. "Admiral, we're making headway," Lieutenant Fedorov said, a slight edge of excitement in his voice. "Our fighters are getting through their shields. We've already knocked out several of their smaller cruisers." Lee nodded, her mind still sharp. "Don't get cocky, Lieutenant. This is only the beginning. The Empire will strike back with everything they have." And strike back they did. As the hours passed, the sheer power of the Empire's fleet began to take its toll. Waves of enemy fighters swarmed toward Earth's defense lines, pushing the limits of humanity's weapons. Earth's ships, though smaller, were beginning to lose ground. Earth had fewer numbers, fewer ships, and fewer resources, but they weren't backing down. On the surface, Earth's military bases had turned into war zones, coordinating ground-based strikes to assist the efforts above. The advanced weaponry hidden for years now became humanity's last line of defense. Laser cannons, railguns, and other destructive technologies tore into the advancing alien forces. The ground forces fought with the same tenacity as their comrades in space. Despite their advanced weapons and technology, the Galactic Empire could not comprehend the sheer tenacity and resolve of the humans they had dismissed for so long. "They keep fighting," muttered General Rivos, a high-ranking Imperial officer aboard the flagship Dominator. He gritted his teeth as another laser barrage erupted from Earth's ground-based artillery. "How are they still holding out?" The Empire's response was swift. A massive, pulse-energy weapon charged up from the Dominator. It was meant to be the turning point of the war, an advanced weapon capable of obliterating entire cities with a single strike. As the weapon powered up, the crew aboard the Resolve knew what was coming. Brace for impact. Lee barked, her eyes never leaving the screen. But Earth was prepared. Just moments before the weapon could fire, Earth's orbital defenses, long kept in secret, unleashed their own powerful weapons in a devastating counterstrike. A brilliant, shining beam of energy ripped across the sky, striking the Empire's weapon with a force that sent shockwaves through space. The energy from the Empire's weapon exploded in a brilliant flash, scattering debris throughout the system. Earth's defenses had held. For the first time, the Empire had been forced to retreat, albeit temporarily. "We did it. For now," Lee murmured, her voice full of quiet relief. But she knew better. The Empire had only been knocked back. They would regroup and retaliate, stronger than before. The battle was far from over. Earth had scored its first major victory, but the war was just beginning. Back in the war rooms, General Roberts analyzed the battle reports. He knew that humanity's victory would be short-lived if they didn't keep up the pressure. The Empire would bring reinforcements. Their ships would adapt. This wasn't just a fight for Earth's survival. It was a fight for humanity's future. "We need to hit them while they're still regrouping," Roberts said, rallying the leadership. "We've shown them we can strike back. Now we need to make sure they know this isn't their galaxy to rule. We fight to win." The reality of the conflict was setting in. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity's capacity to adapt, but it was clear that this war would take everything humanity had. The stakes were no longer just survival. They were fighting for the very soul of Earth. And as long as one human was alive, the Empire would never have peace. On the Dominator, the Empire's leaders were already planning their next move. "The humans have more fight in them than we anticipated," one of the generals said, his voice low. "But we will not lose. The galaxy will be ours." But as the Empire plotted its revenge, humanity was already preparing for the next phase of the war. Earth's forces had been tested, but they had not broken. If anything, their resolve had been strengthened. The Empire had made one massive mistake. They had underestimated Earth. And now, the war for the galaxy had truly begun. The victory was fleeting. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Humanity had made its mark, forcing the Galactic Empire to reevaluate its assumptions about Earth and its people. But the Empire was relentless, and its vast resources were unmatched. In the quiet of the galactic void, the stage was set for the next clash. The Empire's retaliation. Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of the Resolve, staring out at the emptiness of space. Her mind raced. She had won the battle, but could humanity survive the war? She had seen the Imperial fleet fall back in chaos, their flagship, the Dominator, retreating at full speed. But that was only the beginning. The Empire would regroup, and when they returned, they would come with vengeance. "We need to prepare for their counterattack," Lee said, her voice calm, though her heart raced. "The next assault is going to be harder." On Earth, the war machine was mobilizing. The governments that had once been divided, hesitant to prepare for the possibility of intergalactic war, had now united with a common purpose. Every resource was directed toward the war effort. New fighter ships were being built, weapons were being upgraded, and technologies that had been kept in secret research labs for decades were now being deployed on the front lines. General Roberts was pacing in the command room of Earth's military headquarters. The reports from the front lines had been pouring in, and the situation was grim. The Empire was rallying its forces, and Earth had no illusions about the coming onslaught. But humanity had a secret weapon: their will to fight. "We have the element of surprise," Roberts said, as a hologram of the galaxy flickered before him. "They don't know what we're capable of. We need to use that to our advantage." But just as the humans were beginning to rally their forces, the Empire's new assault strategy was already in motion. Fleet commanders aboard the Dominator were finalizing their plans to bring an end to humanity's rebellion once and for all. The galaxy was vast, and the Empire controlled most of it. But Earth's unexpected resistance was now a thorn in their side. It was time to wipe it out. The Imperial Council gathered in the war room aboard the Dominator, a vast, cold space station orbiting a nearby moon. General Rivos stood before the Council, detailing the Empire's next move. "We underestimated the humans once," Rivos said, "but they will not be underestimated again. This time, we bring the full weight of our fleet." The Empire's new strategy was a devastating one. A wave of advanced warships, equipped with the latest in shield-breaking technology, was prepared to strike at Earth's defense networks. The Empire's goal was to decimate Earth's military, neutralize their orbital defenses, and then bring the full power of their armies down to the planet's surface. "We will crush them," one of the council members declared with a cruel smile. "We will show them that they are nothing compared to the might of the Galactic Empire." Back on Earth, the leaders of humanity were working tirelessly to respond. Earth had already begun constructing new weapons to counter the Empire's shields, knowing that their survival depended on it. The latest weapon was an experimental energy pulse, capable of disabling the most advanced shielding technology in the galaxy. But there was a catch. The weapon was still untested, and the time to deploy it might never come. "Admiral," Lieutenant Fedorov called out from his station, "we've detected a massive fleet emerging from hyperspace. They're coming for us." Lee's heart skipped a beat. The Empire had arrived. Through the telescope on the Resolve, Lee saw the massive armada. It was unlike anything Earth had ever faced. Countless ships, their hulls gleaming with the dark, oppressive insignia of the Galactic Empire, filled the sky. The fleet was enormous, dwarfing Earth's own defenses. But Lee stood firm. "We knew this was coming," she said. "Prepare for battle. We don't back down. Not now. Not ever." The enemy fleet had arrived, and Earth's defenses were put to the test. The first wave of Imperial ships descended toward Earth's orbital stations, their weapons blazing. But humanity had a plan. As the Empire's ships fired their deadly lasers, Earth's new weapon systems came online, unleashing devastating bursts of energy. The first few enemy ships were obliterated in an instant. "Fire everything we've got," Lee ordered. "We're not going down without a fight." The battle was fierce. The Earth fleet engaged the Empire head-on, launching wave after wave of fighter ships to slow down the enemy. The Earth-based weapons fired relentlessly, striking the Empire's ships with deadly precision. Yet even as Earth's defenses struck blow after blow, the Empire's fleet was enormous, and their counterattacks were equally brutal. The battle raged on in the skies above Earth, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. General Rivos watched the chaos unfold on the monitors. The initial success of Earth's forces surprised him, but he was confident that they would ultimately fall. "They are nothing compared to our might," he muttered to himself. "We'll crush them in the end." Yet, as the battle continued, something strange was happening. Despite the odds, humanity's forces were not retreating. They fought with a savagery that surprised even the most experienced officers of the Galactic Empire. The humans refused to back down. They were willing to sacrifice everything to survive. Admiral Lee stared out at the battle from the command bridge, her hands gripping the console. The Empire may have had the advantage, but Earth's spirit was unbreakable. The war was far from over. The battle had escalated into something far beyond anyone's expectations. The Galactic Empire's forces were overwhelming, yet humanity refused to give in. Despite the destruction raining down upon them, Earth's defenders fought with a ferocity that the Empire had never encountered before. Each human ship, each soldier, each fighter seemed to embody a single, unified message. Earth would not be crushed. On the command bridge of the Resolve, Admiral Lee surveyed the battlefield. The battle was a chaotic mess of laser fire, explosions, and maneuvering ships. The Empire had underestimated Earth's capacity to adapt and fight back, and now, the tide was starting to turn. Humanity was beginning to show the full extent of its hidden power. "Admiral," Lieutenant Fedorov called out, his voice filled with urgency. The enemy is retreating. They're not advancing anymore. We've broken their front lines. Lee narrowed her eyes, still cautious. Don't celebrate just yet. They're regrouping for something bigger. I can feel it. Across the battlefield, the Empire's ships began to fall back. A few Imperial ships exploded in violent bursts of light, and Earth's forces pushed forward, launching a renewed offensive. The enemy fleet had been staggered by Earth's new weapons, which had already crippled several Imperial ships. But the greatest weapon humanity had wasn't just its technology. It was the sheer will to survive. Back on Earth, the global leaders had been monitoring the situation closely. They knew the Empire would not retreat for long. Earth's forces had done something incredible, but victory was still a distant goal. The war was now more than just a fight for survival. It was a fight for humanity's place in the galaxy. In the war room, General Roberts sat with a holographic map of the galaxy spread before him. "We've bought ourselves time, but this is far from over," he muttered to himself. "The Empire is resilient. They'll come back stronger." And come back they did. As Lee had predicted, the Empire was not going to give up so easily. A few hours after their retreat, a new wave of Imperial ships emerged from hyperspace. This time, they brought with them their most advanced fleet, enormous warships capable of tearing through Earth's defenses. But humanity had prepared for this moment. General Roberts had been working with Earth's best minds to devise a countermeasure against the Empire's superior firepower. The moment the Imperial fleet arrived, Earth unleashed its trump card, an experimental weapon designed to pierce the thick armor of the Imperial ships. "We're ready to test it," Admiral Lee said, her voice filled with resolve. She knew that Earth had no more time for waiting. This was the moment where everything would change, for better or for worse. The weapon, codenamed Apex, was humanity's greatest hope. It was a devastating, high-energy pulse capable of rendering even the most powerful shields useless. If it worked, the Empire's massive warships would be rendered vulnerable. If it failed, humanity would be crushed under the weight of the Empire's might. As the new wave of Imperial ships closed in on Earth's defenses, Lee's heart pounded in her chest. "Activate Apex," she ordered, her voice unwavering. The weapon powered up with a low hum, filling the command bridge with tension. For a brief moment, everything went silent. Then, with a thunderous burst, the pulse shot out from Earth's defense systems, sweeping through space with unimaginable force. The energy wave collided with the oncoming Imperial fleet, and the results were immediate. The first Imperial warship that came into contact with the pulse was instantly disabled. Its shields flickered, then failed entirely. The massive ship shuddered as explosions tore through its hull. The Dominator, the Empire's flagship, was next. Its defenses crumbled before the pulse, and a massive fireball erupted from within its core. "Did it work?" Fedorov asked, his voice barely a whisper, as they all watched in disbelief. Admiral Lee's eyes were fixed on the chaos unfolding before them. The Empire's ships, once invincible, were now vulnerable. Earth's forces, who had been struggling to hold their ground, now saw an opening. They launched wave after wave of fighter ships and missiles, targeting the crippled Imperial fleet. The Empire was in disarray. But the fight was far from over. Despite their fleet being torn apart, the Galactic Empire still had one final weapon, an overwhelming army of ground forces ready to invade Earth. And so, the battle turned into a deadly race against time. On Earth's surface, military leaders prepared for the inevitable ground invasion. The Empire had already launched their first wave of planetary assault ships, and it was only a matter of hours before the battle would rage on the ground. Meanwhile, the remaining Imperial ships regrouped, sending a message to Earth's leaders. It was a final threat, an ultimatum: surrender or face complete annihilation. Humanity had already shown what it was capable of in space, but now, the true test would come on Earth itself. As Lee stared out at the decimated Imperial fleet, She knew that victory was still not guaranteed. The war had reached its climax, and Earth's defenders had one last chance to prove to the galaxy that humanity could never be underestimated. The final showdown had begun. The battle in space had shifted in humanity's favor, but the real war was only just beginning. The Empire had not been defeated yet, and the message they sent Earth was clear. They would stop at nothing to crush humanity's spirit. With their fleet decimated, they now turned to the one strategy they knew could break Earth's defenses: their ground forces. On Earth, the world's military leaders gathered in a command center deep within the planet's heart. General Roberts stood before a massive screen, showing a hologram of the latest enemy movements. Thousands of enemy ships, each one brimming with soldiers and advanced machinery, were descending onto Earth's surface. Admiral Lee's victory in space bought us time, but the real challenge lies ahead, Roberts said grimly. The Empire's ground invasion is beginning. We need to be ready for what's coming. As the Empire's planetary assault ships entered Earth's atmosphere, the surface was being prepared for a fight the likes of which humanity had never seen. Every military asset on Earth was being mobilized: newly developed weapons, defense systems, and shock troops, all ready to push back the invaders. But even with the help of the latest technology, Earth's forces were vastly outnumbered. The enemy had arrived in full force, and they were not planning to hold back. The first Imperial forces began to touch down on Earth's surface. Massive armored vehicles and battalions of alien soldiers emerged from the belly of the invasion ships, pouring onto the ground like a tidal wave of destruction. The terrain shook as the machines unloaded, each one more deadly than the last. The sky above darkened with the silhouette of their assault ships, casting a shadow over the battlefield. On the front lines, Earth's troops braced for the oncoming storm. Soldiers in armored exosuits stood shoulder to shoulder, their weapons drawn and ready. The city streets became war zones, with both sides battling for control of key positions. "Hold your ground," shouted Colonel Harris, a seasoned officer who had seen countless battles. "We've got one shot at this. We cannot lose this city." The first wave of Imperial soldiers charged forward, their advanced technology making them terrifyingly effective. They fired energy weapons that could melt through metal in seconds, and their movements were fast and precise. Earth's forces retaliated with everything they had: laser rifles, grenades, and specialized drones. But the Empire's soldiers pressed on with terrifying speed and power. As the fight raged on, humanity's forces realized just how overwhelming the enemy's ground forces truly were. The Imperial soldiers were not just skilled, they were genetically engineered for war. Their physical strength, intelligence, and endurance far outmatched human soldiers. The Imperial vehicles, hovering above the ground, fired laser beams that sliced through buildings, creating explosions that sent shockwaves through the battlefield. But the humans had something the Empire didn't: resilience. In the midst of the chaos, General Roberts sat in the command center, tracking the progress of the fight. "They'll break through eventually," he muttered to himself. "We need to act fast. We can't afford to lose the city. We need to take the fight to them." Lee's message from the fleet had reached him. The Empire's fleet has been shattered in space, but the battle for Earth is far from over. We need ground forces to hold out long enough for reinforcements to arrive. And so, Earth's last hope lay in the hands of its soldiers. "Deploy the Titans," Roberts ordered, his voice unwavering. The Titans were humanity's latest invention, giant mechs designed for heavy combat. They were colossal in size, standing over 30 feet tall and armed with powerful energy cannons and rocket launchers. These mechs were equipped with artificial intelligence and human pilots, combining the precision of technology with the unpredictability of human tactics. The first Titan emerged from the shadows, its massive metal feet pounding the ground as it marched into the battlefield. Its weapons powered up, glowing with blue energy as it began to fire at the advancing enemy forces. The ground beneath it shook with every step it took. The Titans proved to be a game changer. With their massive firepower, They turned the tide of the battle. The Imperial forces, which had been advancing with relentless force, were now finding themselves struggling against the overwhelming strength of Earth's new war machines. The Titans fired energy blasts that decimated entire squads of enemy soldiers and tore through the enemy's assault vehicles with ease. But the Empire was not one to be easily defeated. As the Titans rampaged across the battlefield, the Imperial forces called in their reinforcements, a new wave of armored ground units designed specifically to combat the mechs. The battlefield erupted with violence as the two sides collided, a brutal clash between the might of Earth's new machines and the Empire's finest soldiers. On the front lines, the battle intensified. Earth's soldiers fought with all their might, knowing that the fate of their planet depended on this fight. The city became a war zone, filled with explosions, gunfire, and the roar of battle cries. The Titans fought valiantly, but their sheer size and power made them prime targets for the Empire's new anti-mech weapons. "Keep fighting," shouted Colonel Harris as his team held their position. "We will not let them take Earth. Not now, not ever." As the battle raged on, Earth's forces began to gain ground. The Empire's forces were formidable, but they had underestimated humanity's will to fight. With each victory on the ground, Earth's resolve grew stronger. The Empire had made a grave mistake by underestimating humanity's power. The true test of Earth's resilience had just begun. The ground invasion was a battle like no other, but humanity's spirit burned brighter than ever. The battle on Earth had reached a fever pitch. Explosions shook the ground as laser blasts ripped through buildings, and the air was thick with smoke and dust. The once peaceful cities had now become the front lines of a war that would determine the fate of humanity. The Empire's forces were relentless, but Earth's soldiers were determined not to surrender. Amid the chaos, the Titans continued their relentless assault. Their massive metal frames loomed over the battlefield, firing powerful energy beams at the Empire's forces. The Titans had become symbols of hope for the humans, towering figures of vengeance that were turning the tide of the war. But even the Titans had their limits. As the battle dragged on, the Imperial forces adapted, deploying specialized weapons and countermeasures designed specifically to take down the mechs. Earth's soldiers and their giant war machines found themselves facing increasingly sophisticated tactics from the Empire, forcing them to fight harder than ever before. In the heart of the battlefield, General Roberts stood, overseeing the war effort. His face was grim, sweat beading on his forehead as he watched the massive holographic display of the front lines. His fingers drummed nervously on the table in front of him. The Empire's forces were overwhelming, and every report coming in from the field seemed to get worse. "How many Titans do we have left?" he asked, his voice sharp. "Only 3 remaining," replied a lieutenant. "But they're taking heavy damage. The Empire has developed new anti-mech tech. It's only a matter of time before they fall." General Roberts clenched his fists. The situation was dire. Humanity was fighting with everything it had, but the Empire's strength seemed almost limitless. The battle had stretched on for days, and the Empire was not showing any signs of relenting. "We can't let them win," Roberts muttered to himself. "We need to hit them where it hurts." Just as he was about to issue another order, the communications officer burst into the room. "General, you need to see this." He followed the officer to the large communications console. The screen flickered, and soon the image of Admiral Lee appeared. "General Roberts, we have a situation," Lee began, his voice serious. "We've just received a transmission from the Empire. They're offering a ceasefire." Roberts raised an eyebrow. "A ceasefire? After everything they've done, why now?" Lee looked grave. "They've realized something. The destruction we've caused is far beyond what they expected. Their forces are being torn apart, and they're on the brink of collapse. They're offering terms, surrender or a full retreat." General Roberts didn't hesitate. "We don't accept surrender. We finish this. We don't negotiate with an enemy who tried to destroy us." Lee nodded. "Understood." But we need to move fast. We have the upper hand, but we need to push them back before they regroup. The humans were not done yet. The Empire had underestimated them from the very beginning. But now, Earth's resolve had turned into something unstoppable. The fight for their planet was more than just a battle for survival. It was a fight for their future, their freedom, and their very existence. "Prepare the final assault," Roberts ordered. "We end this today." Across the battlefield, Earth's soldiers received the order. The remaining Titans advanced, each one unleashing its full firepower as they stomped across the wreckage. The Empire's forces, battered and demoralized, tried to fight back, but their resistance was weakening. The humans had become the unstoppable force, and the Empire's reign of terror was finally coming to an end. The Imperial fleet began to retreat, their once proud ships limping away from Earth's atmosphere. The remaining enemy soldiers on the ground scrambled, retreating into their ships, knowing they had no hope of winning this battle. Earth had won. General Roberts stood at the command center, watching as the last of the Empire's forces fled. A sense of relief washed over him, but it was quickly replaced by something deeper: pride. "We did it," he said quietly. "Humanity did it." Earth had fought back the greatest invasion it had ever known. They had shown the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. The Galactic Empire had thought they could destroy humanity with one swift blow, but they had been wrong. The strength of Earth's people, their will to survive and protect their home, had been more powerful than the Empire's might. As the dust settled and the fires of war died down, Earth stood victorious. The battle was over. Humanity had won, but it wasn't just about the victory. It was about the message sent to the galaxy: never underestimate the human spirit. And as Earth rebuilt, one thing was certain: no one would ever dare challenge humanity again.